Never be annoyed by a coworker again with the productivity pill. This cute little crocheted pill will show the people around you how serious you are about your job. If you are free to talk, then all you have to do is fold in one side and show the cute smiling face that demonstrates that you're open for discussion in a group setting. Now, if you are working on spreadsheets or you're counting or you just don't feel like being talked to at any given moment, now you can let a coworker know without telling them to go away. Let's see how we can make our own productivity pills. For this project, you'll need a couple of things. I made a little one. For this demonstration, I'm going to make one that's a little bit bigger so we can see easier. But for this guy, I used a size 4 yarn. This is cotton, 24/7 cotton by Lion Brand in white and in black. You don't need very much. This is very much a scrap project. For this little one, I also used a little hook. This is a USG or 4mm hook. Now for this demonstration, I'm going to use a much bigger yarn so you can really see what I'm doing. And I'll make the first pill half. You're going to make 2 of these that are the exact same size. You can absolutely start with a magic circle. I'm not going to do that here, but if you want to use a magic circle, by all means, go ahead. I'm going to start with a chain 4, and I'm going to make a little circle that I can work into. So I'm going to slip stitch into that first space to make my ring. Now for the rest, I'm going to crochet over my ends because this is a closed project, so weaving in the ends is a thing of the past. We don't have to really do it here. I'm going to work right over top of that. You can see I've made this little circle. I'm going to work 8 single crochets into that circle. So we're going to work 8 around. If you're not familiar with single crochet, this would be probably a good time to go watch one of those other videos for brand new beginners. This is absolutely a beginner-friendly project, but you'll want to make sure you're very comfortable with single crochets before you start this project, even though it is for beginners. So I have not been counting, so I'm going to do that here in just a moment. But we are going with 8 around. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well, I have 4 more. Sometimes when you're working around, you do have to kind of shove your stitches around a little bit to get what you need from them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 2 more, so I gotta make some room. 7 and 8. And then for each one, I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch to the top of the starting chain. So there is the top of the starting chain right there, and I am going to slip stitch into it. It is kind of difficult to work into stitches because I'm using such a large yarn. But the cool thing about working around your tail is that you can pull it tight and it will tighten that first starting circle. Row 2, chain 1, and then we're going to work right away in this beginning stitch here. So you're going to single crochet into that space, and then you're going to add some single crochets around. Let me grab some more yarn. So you're going to add, we just did 1 here, and then we're going to go 2, 1, 2, 1 around. So I'm going to go 2 single crochets in this first one, and then 1 single crochet in this next one. And yes, this hook size is way too small for this. So I did 2, then 1, now I'm going to do 2 again. This is to increase and make our pill a little bigger. If you want to keep going with increases, I'll show you in the next row how we're not going to do quite as many increases every single row, but you can make these things as big as you want. This is very much a funny, almost like a gag gift project with scrap yarn, so it would be really easy to make this as big as you want to make it. I made small ones. Actually, a big one would actually be way funnier. So I am just going to keep working 2 single crochets and then 1 around for this row. And it's okay that it's too tight. that we kind of want something like that. But for this one, if you're going to use thick yarn, you're going to want to make these really big because it will be hard to flip them in and out. If you use really big yarn, it's a lot easier with the skinny yarn. Okay, so we have done, here's our first single crochet, and then 2, then 1, then 2, then 1, all the way around. So we just finished on a 2 stitch. Normally you wouldn't work this stitch if you worked that very first one, but no rules here. We're going to work this last stitch too. That means we're going to end up with 13 single crochets in this first round. So I'm going to next join with a slip stitch to complete that round. We have another round of increases coming up, so we're going to do a chain 1, work in that first space again. Do you have to do the slip stitch to join, or can you just keep working in a circle around? Answer is whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm doing the joins, but if you just want to work around and around so you don't have to do joins and chain ones, you sure can. That is perfectly all right. For this row, we are going to do, we just single crochet into that first stitch. Now we're going to do single, single, and then 2 single crochets. So that way we're not increasing by quite as many as the last row. So single crochet, my goodness, this is tight. And then 2 single crochets. So work that, repeat all the way around. Single crochet. Oh my gosh, this is tight. Single crochet and 2 singles. I had this idea because my husband pops his head into my office during the work week if he has a thought and he needs something, and he always will just stand there. Because he wants to be polite. He stands there and waits for me to talk first. Well, sometimes I forget, so we just stand there staring at each other until one of us talks first, and it's always got to be me because he can't tell if I'm on a call or something, and he doesn't want to be disruptive. So I thought of this silly thing of flipping it inside and out to let him know if he can talk or not. And then my sister also shared with me that sometimes when she's counting or doing calculations at work and spreadsheets and that, and somebody's asking her all these questions and it's driving her crazy, I'm like, what if it is a nice way to say it? It's hard to say to a coworker, hey, stop talking to me. Please leave me alone. I can't be bothered right now. I'm doing important stuff. And so this is kind of a nice way to say, hey, buzz off. I'm working here. There's lots of these kinds of things on the internet. You can buy, a do not disturb signs and whatever, but I just thought this was way funnier than what I've seen out there. And I have worked, sorry, I'm just talking away here. So I've worked that all the way around. I did the single, single, double all the way around. And we got to the end here. Here's my last with 2 single crochets, and then I just crocheted 1 in that last stitch and then slip stitched to join. So now we've got 2 rows of increases. I should have 18 stitches around. It is okay if your increases aren't perfectly even. I mean, this project isn't meant to fit very specific person or anything like that. So you can fiddle around a little bit with it. We're going to do 1 more row of increases. So chain 1, and then we're going to do our first crochet into this space, and then we'll do single, 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 and then 2. So 3 in between each increase. So single crochet, 3rd single crochet. My gosh, I probably could have used a bigger hook, but that's okay. We will work with what we got. It's the name of the game with this project. Sorry, it's getting squirrely here. So go ahead and work single crochets, so 3 single crochets and then an increase all the way around. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and then 2 singles. This is the last round of increases. After this, we're not going to work any more increases. We're gonna work just around single crochet. So I'll show you what I mean by that, but we're going to work a couple of rows of just single crochets. I should be counting while I'm doing this, but I'm talking instead. This is going to be a Christmas gift for that sister I mentioned earlier so that she can bring it to work and let people know when she cannot be bothered, because we can all get a little gossipy. If somebody comes in and distracts me, it's very easy to find myself 10 minutes later still gabbing instead of doing what I need to get done. So I actually think employers should just provide these to their employees. Hit me up, large employers, if you want me to start manufacturing these. So I've reached about the end here. So here's my starting chain up 1, and I have 2 stitches left. So I'm going to go ahead and just work those 2 stitches with single crochets. So this round, I believe I'm ending up with 23 single crochets, and that is the last of our increase rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to join. And now we have our little coaster if we are sick of this project. But we're not sick of it. We're going to persevere. So chain up 1, and then we're going to start right away in this first one, and that's going to help keep our seam in the back in the same spot. If you skip it and work into this one, eventually your seam is going to slant downward, and we just want the seam to stay in the back because the front is the star of the show. So go ahead and work single crochets. Oops, I just went ahead and did it. Don't skip that very first little thing, even though normally you would. So work single crochet in each stitch around. You will go ahead and do this for as many rows as you like, but I did it for 6 rows on the productivity pill from my first intro. So go ahead and work at least 6 rows around. You want it to be long enough, but you could do more if you wanted it to be taller. So I will come back when I have my 6 rows. Once you have both halves of your productivity pill finished, we need to put our faces on. Now the good news is, because this is going to be closed forever, you don't need to really weave in your ends. So like this end from the beginning, I'm just going to leave it in there. And that's going to be true as I kind of embroider these faces on. You can do just about anything. So for context, my first face is this little guy. He has eyes and a happy mouth. And then the please don't talk to me is more like the megaphone with an X that is on my cell phone. You can do a frowny face. You can do anything, or just a big X was my very first prototype, which is actually this guy right here. Just an X on the red means don't talk to me. So feel free to do whatever embroidery you'd like. I'm going to show you how I made the happy face. To make the face, you're going to firstly want to start with the seam that is pretty visible here. You'll want to start with that on the back, and you can kind of flatten this out a bit just to make it a little easier to see and understand what you're doing. Also really helpful to have a yarn needle, and when I say really helpful, you definitely want to have one, otherwise it'll be pretty difficult. I grabbed a piece of my contrast color. So for the mini productivity pill, I used black, but it would be impossible to show you that on a video because black just doesn't show up. So I used kind of a lighter gray color to make that. So for this, I'm going to throw this on here, and we're going to start off by making our eyes. And this is only the second time I've done this, so it might be a little bit of a process, but my eyes are going to be kind of right here. You can see that your holes between your stitches don't line up exactly top and bottom. They're a little in between each other. So that's how I'm going to do my eyes. And again, you could do anything here. It doesn't have to be these kind of eyes. It could be safety eyes. You could put googly eyes if you really want to have fun. So I'm going to try to find my way through this hole. There it is. That is the one I was aiming for. I'm going to try to leave a little bit of a tail on the inside. It doesn't have to be super long because, again, we don't have to weave in our ends. I'm going to work back through here, and instead of pull it all the way through, I'm just going to immediately pop my needle out the hole that I'm going to be working out of. So now this is only going to make just 1/2 of my little eye. And I'm going to pop it in that same hole that I just went in before to make that. And then now I know my other eye bottom is going to just be a couple of spots away. So I'm just going to find that little spot right there and pull my needle through there. So I made my first little eyeball. I actually really love this bigger version, so I'm pretty sure this is the one that I'm going to recommend going forward. So now I'm over here and I want to use my caddy corner, so I'm going to go into this one, and I know you can't really see it, but I'm going to pop out the one next to it just like I did before. And pull that all the way through. Now we're going to go in here, and then I want the mouth to start pretty quick. So I'm just going to pop the first point of the mouth just below that eyeball. You don't have to follow me exactly. You can be creative. You can do, gosh, just about anything. And now these kind of look like happy little eyes to me, at least. And we're going to try to make this a smile. I'm trying to copy what I did here for Mini Pill, which I should fold my no out of the way. He's being stubborn. That's why I like the bigger one better. I just feel like it'll be a little easier to fold him in half. There we go. There's my little mouth that I'm going to try to emulate. So I am going to come down. I did just one row straight down. So I'm going to do that. I know it's further to the outside, but that's okay. He's really happy, so his smile is very wide. And then I'm going to go underneath to the next point I want and then work backwards over top of that. So my next point is going to be right here, I think. So I'm going to pop out through that spot. And then I'm going to go work back into this hole that we just made. So we're starting to make a little smiley guy. This is the gossip. This is the one who's going to be a chatterbox. And I'm just looking at this and how wide I want to be. I'm going to go, so this one kind of lines up on the outside of that eyeball. I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing. So I just fibbed. I want my next point to pop out here because I need to make a line right here. So I'm going to pop this line out right there. And then I'm going to go back into that same spot. And then now I'm going to go up my smile here. So I'm going to work right there. I just find it's easier to know where I want to pop out if I do it in these little sections like this. So now I know that I need to go back down into this one. And it's going to look crazy on the inside. The inside's going to look nothing like this. That is perfectly all right. And then my end of my happy face is going to be right here. So I'm going to pop out right there and go down through here. Now I could leave it just like this. I think this is really cute. He's very smiley. I love it a lot. And I actually am going to stop there. I could do the top of the little mouth, but I don't want to. I just love the way that looks. So now you'll want to do whichever version that you like on the dark side. So if you want to just make it an X, I think I'm going to do eyeballs with a little cross mouth as a face, but my mouth is not happy talking. So that's what I'm going to do for this. I'll show you in just a second. There they are. There's the little faces. Next step will be just to tie knots on the inside. Cut the yarn a little bit so it's close, but we don't really have to weave in. And then we're going to seam together. So I'm going to tie my knots and we'll come back to seam together. For one of these, you're not going to use the tail to seam them together, and the other one you are. So if I'm not going to use that tail, I am going to tie a secure little knot at the end of this one so that this end doesn't ever come out. So I am going to weave this just a teeny bit. So I'm making a secure little knot. Pull that tight, and then I'm just going to send it up a little bit just to get it away from my seam. That's really it. Normally I weave in a lot more than that. If you've ever watched any of my videos, you're probably like, geez, stop weaving in your ends. It's fine. But I am always a worrywart. So that is going to stay like that. And I'm getting my... This one, however, has a long tail attached. I'm going to use this long tail to weave these two together. So this is where my seam is on the gray one. I'm going to line that up with where my seam is on the white one. So I've got my seams lined up on each of these. I'm going to go ahead and flatten them out so that it's a little easier to see. And we're going to work a whip stitch. So I'm just going to pick one of these and pull my yarn through it. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. So I'm going to move on to this stitch right here. So I'll work under both loops of the one on the gray side and then under both loops of the one on the white side. You could use mattress stitch as well. I just chose whip stitch. It works great. So grab this side, and we're going to whip stitch this all the way around. Be sure that as you go, you'll stop and you'll tug these tight so that they lay flat and keep these really close together. So continue to whip stitch all the way around. Once you've finished whip stitching all the way around, you're going to want to tie off your end. And you don't really have to weave this one in either. We're going to send the end of the yarn inside of, and this is looking to me a lot like an egg. So I keep wanting to call it an egg now, but inside of our productivity pill. So go ahead and make sure you tie a nice secure knot. And then I'm going to just send this right out through the front. And now that that's through the front, then I just need to pull this, and then I just cut this tail a little bit, and now I can pull the rest of it, and now that end is inside just like I would want it to be. So now I'm too close, so I'm going to show you what this looks like standing up. Now you can easily let your coworkers know if it is not time to gossip, or if you're a little more open to conversation. Maybe it's time to go to lunch or something like that, so they can go ahead and talk to you. That is the productivity pill. I would love to see it. If you guys go ahead and make this, please let me know. Tag me at ginger.knots on Instagram or anywhere. I would really love to see it.